If you don't know how this works yet, what I do is I pick a band that I like and I talk about them. There's not much else to say. Sometimes I might talk about them for an hour, maybe an hour and a half or more. Occasionally it's been more. It might be 38 minutes, I don't know. But I talk about bands that I like, and I'm going to go through their whole discography. This has morphed a little bit. I started this in May. It was May 8th when it was Motorhead Day. And Motorhead is a band that I really, really love. And I wanted to talk about Motorhead because we were in a time, this was back in the days of yesteryear, when we were stuck in something called quarantine. It was like a lockdown, some people called it. And it was during this coronavirus period, and there was nothing really much we could do. I was free to leave the house, but there was nowhere to go. This has changed a little bit. It's Sunday now, and football season started. I could watch football. I could maybe go out and do a few things, but I'm going to talk about music because I like talking about music. Today, I'm going to talk about The Who. This one is, I say, it seems that every time I do one of these, I say this one's different. The thing that's different for me about The Who is The Who is a band that I did get into them. I'm going to talk about The Who. I'm going to talk about all their albums. I'm going to go through their whole discography. I'm going to hold up these little plastic things called CDs that some of you might remember. They're not the big things that people call vinyl or vinyls, which is incorrect. But I'm going to talk about their music. I do have a long history with The Who, very long. Not as strong, not nearly as strong as I did with Kiss or Motorhead, as I mentioned, Slayer, Metallica, Iron Maiden, nothing like that. But the Who, this is going to be difficult. This is a little bit difficult for me because I wasn't a Who fan. I was a Who fan. I'll talk about when I got into the Who. I was a Who fan when I was a kid, but not a big fan. So most of these albums I'm going to talk about today, almost all of them, except I guess the last couple, were what I call go-back albums that I got into long after they were out, and then I went back and got into them. And I don't need, now I do know enough about The Who that I can do this on my own. I don't need a co-host like I did with the Beatles. Lilia helped me out with the Beatles. I think I can do the Who. I can, for sure. I can do the Who on my own. But I might stumble, I might fall, I'm going to make some mistakes. People on the internet love to point out mistakes. So if you hear a mistake, and if you want to make yourself feel better, please tell me, call me a moron, tell me I'm an idiot. You're on the internet, it's your right to do so. So I'm going to talk about The Who, my history with them, my t-shirt history, my concert history, everything about The Who. That's what I'm going to talk about today. And I'm going to talk about, before I get to the music, I'm going to talk about something, two unique things about The Who. And I should say, I do know them better than, as I said, the Beatles, but not as well as Motorhead or Kiss or Slayer, Metallica, something like that. So that's why I make some mistakes. A unique thing about The Who, as I've mentioned before, I guess I'm lucky enough to live in a place, I live in Mexico, where the weather is warm or hot all year round. And I wear t-shirts every day of my life, almost. And I guess I'm lucky or unlucky enough to have a job that allows me to wear t-shirts. And I've done videos of t-shirts, many videos of t-shirts. So how does this relate to The Who? I'm going to tell you. The very first ever rock t-shirt I ever had was The Who. Maybe it's surprising. It's kind of surprising for me. The first band I was ever into was Kiss in 1975. I'm repeating myself already because I've talked about this in prior videos. And so I got into Kiss in 1975. Then I was into AC/DC and Van Halen and Black Sabbath in around 1980. But the first t-shirt I ever had was The Who. I didn't have shirts of any of those bands, but I did get a Who shirt in, I guess it was in 1982. My cat is coming up here and I don't want her to disturb the balance of the video, so I'll hold her for a while. I got It's Hard. It's Hard was a Who album, which I'm going to talk about later. It came out in 1982. I bought that shirt in around that time, 1982, at Cedar Brae Mall in Toronto, in Scarborough. I don't remember the name of the record store, but it was down at the far end of Cedar Brae Mall. That would have been the far end for me. That was I guess the west end of Cedar Brae Mall. Don't remember the name of that record store, but I did buy The Who, It's Hard. So that was my first not concert shirt, but rock shirt ever. Well, yeah, of any musical band that had their name adorned on it, The Who was the first one, so I had that. Now I'm going to talk about their music, now that we have the important stuff, the t-shirts out of the way. So their first album, The Who. Oh, and before I get to that, I should say they have a very, very complex, really, really hard catalog. The Beatles did too. That's why I needed help from Lily with the Beatles. I think The Who even more. The Who have, you know, they have their original albums, and then they had like US versions, I guess, or international versions and British versions. And then later, as things progressed and CDs came out and remastering, they came out with remastered versions with some bonus tracks. And then some years later with deluxe versions, which were two discs. And so I'm going to make, I think, a lot of mistakes. I'm maybe going to leave a lot of stuff out, even though this is probably going to be an hour or maybe more. I'm going to miss a lot of stuff. I'm going to make some mistakes. So all the albums that I have are, I guess I'll go through them. I think they're the basic albums. They came out before the remasters. So I'm going to start with the first one. Where else would I start? This is My Generation, or The Who Sings My Generation, because they always put the name of the band in their album titles. So this is My Generation. This came out in 1965, I think, something like that. 66. It's got the year here. You can't see it, but you have to take my word that it says 1966. This compact disc contains program transferred from analog tape, and therefore may contain some tape hits and other anomalies that exist with analog recordings. So that's why they did the remasters. So this is the first one. Now the very first Who album had, of course, everybody knows I guess the most famous song on this album, and one of the most famous Who songs ever, is the title track, My Generation. I'm going to get right to it and make, I think, a bold statement, or may ask a question. Was My Generation the first metal song? It was a little bit thrashy. Ding, 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 ding. I'm not saying they were like, you know, Testament, but that was, I would imagine for 1966, the song My Generation must have been pretty heavy. I don't know if that word existed. I know the word heavy existed then. I don't know if it was related to music. But My Generation, I do like this album a lot. This was The Who, I think, for the first 3 albums, and I'll go through this I'll talk about this as I continue. I'd say their first 3 albums were different than the band they would become later. They were much more in this era, in the mid 60s into the late 60s, kind of like a rock and roll band, kind of in the vein of the Beatles and I guess some other bands that were around at that time. More rock and roll. I think they became a rock band later, but at this time they were a rock and roll band. And Roger Daltrey's voice, he again, for the first 3 albums, when you listen to them now, he's almost in many songs or many cases unrecognizable from the power voice that he ended up having later. So this album, I like this album a lot. Out in the Street, very first Who song ever. The Good's Gone, The Good's Gone. And I should say, I might spontaneously break into song at some point, which I apologize for because I'm not a very good singer. Yeah, The Good's Gone, The Good's Gone. That has a great groove. That's one of my favorites on this album too. La 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 is a good one. Kids Are All Right. The Ox, John Entwistle. That's a John Entwistle song. A Legal Matter. Well, it's a legal matter, baby. Got me on the run. It's a legal matter from now on. That might be a favorite too. So a good debut from the Who. I guess of this album, maybe 2 songs ended up becoming like a lot of good ones, but maybe a couple that became classics. Obviously, My Generation. Maybe The Kids Are All Right. I don't mind other guys dancing with my girls. Yeah, but excellent. Not my favorite, but I do like this Who album a lot. I don't know what else to say. And I think the cover of this one, I don't know if this was the original cover. This was how they did things back in the 60s, man. They featured some song titles right on the album cover. I guess the later versions had, this looks like a very 60s cover. The later versions were a little bit different. It was that overhead shot. Anyway, so there you go, My Generation. I don't have too much to say about that. It was I guess, typical music from the 60s. Very, as I said, different from what the Who would later become. So there we go, My Generation. Let me put that one away. And then the next one, now this is where already it starts to get confusing. And My Generation, a few years ago, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, they came out with a box set. I guess it was like a deluxe box set of it. I didn't buy those. But it had a song called The Girls I Could Have Had. It was an unreleased song. Who had so many B-sides and unreleased songs that found their way on various compilations and as bonus tracks of remastered albums, things like that. The Girls I Could Have Had was an excellent song. It was just guitar. I think there was no bass even, no drums for sure. Good song. Pete Townsend on lead vocals, The Girls I Could Have Had, going back. So already I'm getting confused. So this one, this was called, as you can see, this is called a quick one. Now I'm not sure about this. I skipped the production meeting where the producers give me information. I didn't go to it today. I was sleeping. And now something about this, was it Happy Jack? I don't know if this was if I have the, I know I do have, I guess this is I have the version with all the bonus songs. I think this came out in the late 90s. This album, I don't know if it was, I think it was called Happy Jack. Now Happy Jack is a song, of course, and it's a good song. I like it. But maybe it was in the UK. The album was called Happy Jack. And in the US or North America or everywhere else, it was called A Quick One. I'm not sure. This one, it's okay. I do like it. I like a lot of it. Some of them I'm not really, some songs I'm not that familiar with. Boris the Spider. Boris the Spider. I can't do the voice like John Entwistle. It's a cool song. Maybe I'll talk about that much later. Cobwebs and Strange, instrumental song. Maybe this was in 1960. It doesn't have the year. This says 95. That was when this was reissued. I guess I got it around then. But I guess this album came out in 66 or 67. And Cobwebs and Strange must have maybe what was the fastest guitar playing ever up to that point. Pete Townsend was really shredding on Cobwebs and Strange. So Sad About Us. This is for sure my favorite song on this album, So Sad About Us. And one of my favorite Who songs ever. I wouldn't say My Generation didn't have anything that I would consider one of my favorite Who songs ever, but this one does. So Sad About Us. So sad about us, ding, 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 ding. Sad, suppose we'll never break up. So again, I apologize for that. I love So Sad About Us. Very, very pop Who song. Again, very different from what they would become later. Quick One While He's Away. That was maybe the first. That's a long song. It's 9 or 8, 10 minutes. 9 minutes, 10 seconds. That's a long one. It's kind of adds to this is the first sign of complexity for the Who. That was a 9 minute and 10 minute song that had all different 4 or 5, 3, 10 different parts. That was, I guess, kind of like maybe what could be considered the first part of their rock opera, which they would continue. I think I'm going to talk about that a lot. So this album, I don't like it as much as My Generation. There's a tendency to always compare the most current album to the one before it, which is maybe not always fair. But between this and My Generation, I like My Generation. This one, the version I have, has some bonus tracks. Batman, Bucket T, Bucket T, Bucket T, Barbara Ann, Happy Jack is on this one, and another version of My Generation, which was Land of Hope and Glory. So this one, a quick one, not a favorite, but a good album. Cool artwork. I guess very 60s, typical of the 60s artwork, and there it is. You can see Happy Jack there. So again, I'm not sure about that. There must be the Who. I think is one of the few bands that I like that now at this point where the typical Who fan is older than me. And most I'm not an old guy. I'll be 51 shortly. And most of the bands that I like, the bands that I'm really fans of, I guess their fans mostly are younger than me or around my age, but Who fans are older. So if you're an old man, you can tell me what you think about any of these albums. I'm getting off track. All right, I'll put that one away, and I'll reach over here and take the next one. This is called The Who Sell Out. This was 1967, 68, around there. Is there a year on this? No, this was at 1995. This was another reissue. This was the thing that bugs me a little bit about The Who with some of their albums, and I'll talk about this with at least two other ones, is that they were so broken up into these little tiny, as I mentioned earlier, the rock operas. This one was kind of broken up with these little commercials. I guess they called this The Who Sell Out because they had these little commercials in between songs. So you had some really good songs, and then these little tiny minute or even 30-second interludes. So this was. I would put this on the same level as the last one, a quick one. Now there are some great songs. Mary Ann with the Shaky Hand. What you've done with a hand, what you've done to a man, those shaky hands. That's maybe my favorite from this one. I wouldn't say there's anything on here that's one of my favorite Who songs, but I do love Mary Ann with the Shaky Hand. I Can See for Miles was a staple. That was on the radio all the time when I was a kid and a teenager, and I guess still is. There was not too much on here. Heinz Baked Beans, that was, I guess, one of these commercials that I talked about. Odor Ono was another one. Oh, Tattoo is a good song. Not too much. I didn't really get into this one the way I did with a few of the other Who albums. So The Who Sell Out, I would say everything changed after, kind of, in some ways, changed after this one. So The Who Sell Out. Not too much to say about that one. Now this one I have to go to the phone to check this one. I am going to talk about this. I'm missing, I think, 2 or 3 Who albums that I did buy, but I don't have them with me. I don't know if when I moved from Canada to Mexico, I could only bring so many CDs. This is when I used to listen to CDs. I could only bring so many CDs with me at the time. And I don't know why I would have skipped why I would have brought the band's whole discography. And looking at here, their discography is big. But I had Magic Bus. I guess didn't bring it with me when I moved here. Magic Bus was it was a compilation album of, I guess they were previously released songs. They had released Magic Bus, this song. They had released that as a single at some point. And I guess it was successful, so they put it on this compilation. It was actually called the Magic Bus, The Who on Tour. It wasn't a live album, The Who on Tour. It's, I guess, a promotional thing. What else was on here? I never got into it this too much. I had Our Love Was Is, which was on The Who Sell Out. Call Me Lightning, which ended up being, I guess, a pretty good song. I'm not really familiar with this one. Magic Bus is the centerpiece of this album. Bucket Tea again was on here, which was later, as I mentioned earlier, a bonus track on a quick one. And Pictures of Lily too. Pictures of Lily was, I'm not sure where that was on originally, but maybe it was a single. Yeah, I think Pictures of Lily was a good song. Pictures of Lily, Lily, oh Lily. Sorry. But I like that song. So Magic Bus, I think I bought that one just as just to complete the collection, and I didn't bring it with me, I guess, which I kind of regret now that I don't have the complete, literally physical discography here, but close enough. So The Who, Magic Bus on tour, not too much to say about that one. Now I can put that down, and next I'm going to talk about. This was maybe, this is, everybody knows this album. I think if you're watching this, you obviously know it. If you're a music fan, you know this. This was Tommy. This was, now I love this album. I would say this is the first Who album that I love of the 3 or 3.5, if you count Magic Bus that I've talked about so far. This is the first masterpiece. This is the first one that I love. But a very frustrating album. The Who, just very, very hard to follow. Now, everybody knows this was a rock opera. This was a story that Pete Townsend wrote. There was a story of the deaf, dumb, and blind kid. There was Tommy. Now you can see without bonus tracks, this is the original version. This is 24 songs. All right, and the thing that is frustrating about this for me, I didn't buy this album at the time. This came out in 69, I think. Yeah, it was 69. I was born in 1969. I got this many years later, even decades later. And now the reason it's frustrating is maybe also the reason it's a classic, because it has, oh, I don't know how to explain this. So many pieces of music in so many different tracks. And they did the same thing, not as much on Quadrophenia, which I'll talk about later. But a lot of these songs were just little interludes, a little bit similar to the Who Sell Out. Now, it started with Overture, which was, I guess, made up of little pieces of most of the main songs on here. And now, I guess the second track is It's a Boy. Now, it's only 39 seconds. I wish they had fleshed that song out into a full song. It's a boy, Mrs. Walker, it's a boy. It's a boy, Mrs. Walker, it's a boy. A son. And I apologize for the singing, but I feel like I have to do it. I love that melody, but it's too bad that that's only, the whole track is 39 seconds. I wish they could have made that a full song. It's frustrating just to hear a little snippet, 39 seconds. 1921, I got a feeling 21 is going to be a good year. Amazing Journey and Sparks, two tracks, but they kind of go together. Christmas, Christmas also have, what other parts? Christmas, they get so excited. And it had, see, this is why it's very frustrating for me to not know. There were other songs that had parts in Christmas. Cousin Kevin, is that a little bit of a creepy, kind of a creepy story, this whole thing. Cousin Kevin was, do you want to play a game? It's about hide and seek. I can't remember the lyrics. The Acid Queen, I'm the Gypsy, the Acid Queen. Pete Townsend was singing a lot of songs on this album. And then the Overture, Do You Think It's All Right? 24 seconds, again, just a little interlude. Fiddle about, fiddle about, fiddle about. Pinball Wizard, a classic Who song for sure. Everybody loves that song. There's The Doctor, another 24-second interlude. Go to the Mirror. Tommy, Can You Hear Me? That's, I would put that in the same category as It's a Boy. Tommy, can you hear me? I love that song. I just wish it was longer than 1 minute 36 seconds. I wish they had put it into a full song. Smash the Mirror, Sensation, Miracle Cure, 12 seconds. Smash the Mirror is 1 minute 35. Sally Simpson, I'm Free, doom, 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 doom. Welcome, Tommy's Holiday Camp, and then We're Not Gonna Take It, which then was that See Me, Feel Me, Listening to You. Again, it's very, very difficult what was that? Yeah, We're Not Gonna Take It, I think also had See Me, Feel Me, and what was the other one I just mentioned? Listening to You. I don't know if they released those as actual songs with those titles, maybe on some other version of Tommy, but I can't remember. So a little bit mixed. I should say I love this album. I don't want to sound like I'm saying anything bad about it, because I'm not. I do love it. It's just hard to keep track of all these musical pieces. But it's an excellent album, and they revisited this. They toured many times, even I think in recent years, and they've done this whole album. Now, I should say, with this album, I didn't know anything about this album. When I was a kid or a teenager, I knew it was a concept. I didn't understand it until many years later, and I heard interviews, or maybe it was on DVDs or something, with Pete Townsend explaining the concept of Tommy. I don't know if it was over my head, or maybe I was just too young to understand. But as I guess as a story, I do appreciate it more now than I was a kid. I guess I understand it more now. But it's a confusing album, but it's excellent. Tommy is a classic. Everybody knows it, right? I'm going to put that one away, and then I'm going to talk about next. And I do have this one, Live at Leeds. This was, I think, again, this version that I have is 14 tracks. I think the original album was less than that. I think it was a single album, maybe it must have ended at track 10, which is Amazing Journey in Sparks. I guess this version I had from the 90s had 4 bonus tracks: Summertime Blues, Shaking All Over My Generation, Magic Bus. This was, it was amazing. I didn't hear this album until many years later. I was a teenager, maybe even older, when I first heard this album. What a very heavy album. The Who live were much heavier, and I'm going to use the word for the first time, bombastic. The Who are very bombastic live and a little bit on record too. Of all of the classic rock bands of that era, which were, I guess, the Who, the Beatles, the Stones, maybe, I guess, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin. The Who was before Led Zeppelin. They are for sure my favorite. I would take the Who over any of those bands I mentioned. It's not even close. But I didn't realize until many years later how heavy, not heavy, but powerful the Who were. And especially on this album, this was maybe the first time where you could really hear that the Who played really aggressively live, which I'll also take this time to show this. To me, these kind of go together. This is the live at the Isle of Wight in 1970, which was around the same time as Live at Leeds. I think Live at Leeds was recorded in 69, maybe late 69. This was mid 70. Maybe I think they were doing a similar set. And this is, when you watch this, they were very, the Who was very aggressive live. Just not everything, not just the guitar, but everything was very bombastic. There's that word again. So I'll talk about these together. They both open with Heaven and Hell, and then Can't Explain. So the same 2 opening songs. Live at the Isle of Wight has Young Man Blues, which is also, that's a very, really aggressive song, Young Man Blues. What else is on here? Water on the Isle of Wight. Water was not on Live at Leeds. I'm cross-pollinating here. Where do I look at? Substitute. I think the Substitute, was a bonus on the Isle of Wight DVD. I don't see it here. Maybe I made a mistake doing these both at the same time, because I'm getting confused. Amazing Journey Sparks on Live at Leeds. Now there was much more Tommy on the Isle of Wight DVD, but very aggressive. This also had Magic, but the bonus tracks were Summertime Blues, Eddie Cochran, Shaking All Over My Generation, and Magic Bus. And this was at a time when live albums were a new thing. I think a lot of bands weren't putting out live albums. Now, of course, everybody does it. So this Live at Leeds is considered, not personally for me. I mean, I like it, but it's not a favorite. But Live at Leeds, I think, is considered a classic live rock album. I really blew it talking about these 2. Yeah, as I said, I'm not completely on the ball with the Who. And as I've said with some of these other ones, I maybe need to revisit some of these. Live at the Isle of Wight, I did watch that recently, maybe a couple of weeks ago. And it was something weird about that. I don't know, maybe it's the way they filmed things back then in the 60s, man. It was in front of, they said 600,000 people, and the Who played at 2 a.m. And I don't know if everybody was sleeping, or the way that the audience was lit, there was, I guess, spotlights on the audience. It looked like there were a few hundred people there. I guess you couldn't see back beyond the first 100 meters, I don't know. And between songs, you couldn't hear anything. Maybe they just didn't have the crowd mic'd, or maybe the crowd was, as I said, sleeping, but strange, the Isle of Wight. So Live at Leeds and the Isle of Wight, they kind of go together. Next. Now, this one, this is, did I forget something? No, I think I'm okay now. I might have to go back and forth. This is Who's Next. This is by far, nothing is even close to being my favorite Who album. This is their signature album, I would say. Almost every song from this album was became a rock radio staple. And I love this album. I really, really love this album. Every song. This is, I would even say, a perfect album. Baba O'Reilly, which I didn't know until I was probably a teenager that song was called Baba O'Reilly. I thought it was called Teenage Wasteland, as I think there are still people who think it's called Teenage Wasteland, which makes sense, right? That was one. This is similar with a lot of other bands or a lot of other songs that you get tired of at some point, and then maybe later, after some time away, you appreciate it more. Because I've been away from Canada for over 14 years now, I never ever listened to rock radio. So a lot of these classics by The Who, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, the Stones, Pink Floyd, some Canadian bands, let's say April Wine and the Guess Who and Triumph. I've been away from them for so long, I like them now. But I love Bob O'Reilly. Bargain, they call that a bargain, the best I've ever had. That was another one, I think when I was a teenager, I thought it was called the best I've ever had, but it was called Bargain. Love Ain't for Keeping, that was one that was not a radio song. I don't know if that's a reason, but that might be my favorite on this album. Just a beautiful, very nice, short, simple acoustic song, laying on my back in the newly mown grass. My Wife, John Entwistle. John Entwistle was maybe kind of like Peter Criss in Kiss. He had, I mean, he wasn't the main guy, but he was good for one song on every album. I think I like, in relation to the catalog, I think I like John Entwistle's songs in the Who's catalog better than I like Peter Criss's songs in Kiss, although I'm a much bigger Kiss fan than the Who. The Song Is Over. Getting in Tune, that could be my favorite on this album. I'm getting in tune, right? Really nice song, ballady. I get a little tired of having to say, do you come here often? I hear the harmonies. I hear the harmony in my heart, and sets my head reeling. I always blow the lyrics. It's very easy when you're listening to a song to sing along, but to just recall lyrics as you're talking is very difficult. But Getting in Tune is a beautiful song. I'm playing these chords because they fit in well. I'm singing these notes because they fit in well with the chords I'm playing. Anyway, Getting in Tune, I love it. That's could be my favorite. That was maybe another one that I didn't have a chance to get tired of, like Bob O'Reilly and Bargain and Behind Blue Eyes. Going Mobile. I'm going home, and when I want to go home, I'm going mobile. Good song. Pete Townsend sings that one. Won't Get Fooled Again was one that I did get tired of. I would even say I hated that song. I just heard it. It was constantly on the radio. It was long. I was a kid. Maybe I didn't have an attention span for long songs, although now I can't say I love long songs, but I have much more appreciation. If it's good, it's good. But Won't Get Fooled Again is another one, similar to Bob O'Reilly. First and Last song that I was very tired of at some point in my life, but I love those songs, both those now. So every song, for me, this is similar with the Beatles when I talked about Help. This is a perfect album. There are other Who albums that I like, even other Who albums that I love. I'd say for me, this is the only one that I love, and this is the only one that's perfect. And then I have the version here with some bonus songs. Water, I talked about that. There was a live version on either Isle of Wight or Live at Leeds. Pure and Easy, Naked Eye. Naked Eye was a good song. I didn't talk about Behind Blue Eyes. Behind Blue Eyes is excellent. That was another radio song that I never got tired of that one. Maybe it wasn't played as much. And I always thought that would have been a good one for a metal band to cover. I know Limp Bizkit covered it. And I'm not a big Limp Bizkit fan, but I have nothing against them. I know they're one of the most hated bands, maybe in the history of music. I actually did some good covers. But I always thought, especially Metallica could have done a good cover of Behind Blue Eyes. The part that gets a little bit heavier, when my fist clenches, crack it open before I use it and lose my cool. And if I swallow anything evil, put your finger down my throat. I can't help but hear James Hetfield singing those songs. They're right in his wheelhouse. Whatever a wheelhouse is, it's in it for James Hetfield. Would have been I think a great Metallica cover, or a lot of metal bands I think could have done a great cover of Behind Blue Eyes. So that's it for Who's Next. Classic album, I love it. The Who's signature album and my personal favorite. So there you go, Who's Next. Which I'll take this time to say, The Who's album titles, give me a break. Man, they had to work in the Who. There was Who's Next, the Who Sings My Generation. Their most recent album was just called Who. They had Who's Next, Who's Last, Who's First, the Who by Numbers. I don't know if I mentioned that. I understand. Your band is called the Who. Don't pound me over the head with it. All right. Am I getting out of... This is where I might lose track here. No, I think I'm good with this. This is Meaty, Beaty, Big and Bouncy. This was a compilation album. Maybe not exactly a greatest hits, but a compilation that had some great songs in it that were only released as singles. Especially the first song, I Can't Explain. Was released as a single, and so I guess other than the single, this was maybe the first place you could have got that. Kids Are Alright was on My Generation. Happy Jack was released earlier. I Can See for Miles was on the Who Sellout. Pictures of Lily, which I think was a single, as I mentioned earlier. My Generation. The Seeker. The Seeker was that's a great song. This is a really good compilation because that's at least 3 great songs. Can't Explain, Pictures of Lily, and The Seeker. That's only halfway. Oh, and the next one, Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere. Was that on, I think that was on My Generation. Let me just check. No, it wasn't. I think that one, Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere, was a single and released on here. Pinball Wizard from Tommy. A Legal Matter from My Generation was on here. Boris the Spider from a quick one. Magic Bus, another single. Substitute, that's a great song too. And Great Wight, there's a band called Great Wight. If anybody knows Great Wight, they were kind of one of those 80s hard rock metal LA bands, and they did an excellent cover of Substitute, which was a single, and I guess available here for the first time as a non-single. And I'm a Boy. I'm a boy, but my mom won't admit it. That was on, can't remember. But excellent compilation. I really like this one a lot. This has some of my favorite Who songs. So this is one that I've mentioned before. Compilations are kind of outdated now. There's no point in compilations, I think, in a lot of cases, because everybody can make their own playlists or whatever. But Meaty, Beaty, Big and Bouncy has a lot of really, really good songs on it. But it was not called the greatest hits, I don't think. And Fat Boy, these were called the Fat Boy jewel cases. This is Quadrophenia. This was the next concept album that came after Tommy. Who's Next was supposed to be a concept album called Lifehouse. It was something that Pete Townsend was doing, and I guess he abandoned it and ended up doing what was great, because it ended up being, for me, the best Who album ever. Quadrophenia, this is similar to the Who in the fact, similar to Tommy, that it's a concept album. But I think better, this was more direct. This didn't have those little musical interludes, I call them. This was basically about 16 or 17 flat out great songs. This is a really, really good album. I Am the Sea was maybe kind of like a little bit like an overture. The Real Me, that's again one of my top Who songs. Top 10 for sure. I love The Real Me. Very aggressive, amazing bass. Everybody should know that The Real Me has amazing bass. And Wasp did a great cover of The Real Me on Inside the Electric Circus. Blackie Lawless from Wasp was I think Pete Townsend was like his musical idol or musical hero. So Wasp did a really cool cover of The Real Me. That's a very aggressive song. But again, this album, similar to Tommy, is a little bit frustrating because they put in different pieces in different songs. The beginning of 5:15 was like a piece from Cut My Hair. Why Should I Care? What else? The Punk and the Godfather had also, I think, something else in it. I'm One. That could possibly be my favorite Who song ever. I'm going to say that a few times. So Sad About Us. I wouldn't say So Sad About Us as a front runner, as my favorite, but it is one of. I'm One as a front runner for the number one, the coveted number one spot. People say coveted. I love I'm One. That's a Pete Townsend song. And it's fantastic. Is It In My Head? That's a good song too. I've Had Enough. 5:15, I mentioned that. Sea and Sand, Drowned, Bellboy, Dr. Jimmy, The Rock, Love, Rain Over Me. That's another fantastic Who song. That's could be considered. I think for me that could be considered their signature song. Maybe. I think most people might think Baba O'Reilly or Won't Get Fooled Again. I think Love, Rain Over Me, it's so big and grand, and it's just a huge song. You can almost picture it as this enormous just piece of music, very dramatic, symphonic, orchestral, even though it maybe doesn't have orchestra in it. Love, Rain Over Me, just dramatic. Maybe one of the best rock vocals ever. Roger Daltrey just sings amazing on Love, Rain Over Me. And Pearl Jam did a cover of that maybe 10 years ago, I think, one of their fan club singles. But the Who's version of Love, Rain Over Me is just fantastic. So this is a good album. I like this one much better than Tommy. It's more direct. It's longer, so it's a little bit dense. You need more of a commitment to listen to this one. This is probably 85 minutes, somewhere around there. I think Tommy is maybe 72, 75. But this is much more direct. I love Quadrophenia. I would say Quadrophenia is maybe second or third favorite Who album, somewhere around there. I can't put all of them into an order, but I do love Quadrophenia. So there you go. And what am I missing here? Another one that I'm missing. I did buy this one. I did buy it, but it's another one that I don't have. I'm not sure why I didn't bring it with me. And it was, if I'm correct, I think in the order, it was Odds and Sods, or Odds and Sods. I guess excuse my poor British accent. I don't have this one. It was, so I'll have to go to the notes here. It was a compilation, but very different than Meaty Beaty Big and Bouncy. Odds and Sods was all B-sides and outtakes. I guess they were previously unreleased, maybe a lot of them. This is one I never got into, which is maybe why I didn't bring it with me when I moved here. Long Live Rock, of course, that ended up becoming a staple. Long Live Rock was always on the radio when I was a kid and a teenager. Other than that, I'm not too familiar with Odds and Sods, which is maybe why I didn't bring it. Pure and Easy was a good song, and Naked Eye. Naked Eye was on, there was a live version, I think. Was it on Live at the Isle of Wight? Or Live at Leeds? I'm not sure. It was somewhere else. I have the remastered version from the 90s, which had a bunch of bonus songs, which were good ones. It had Leaving Here, which Motorhead did and Pearl Jam did. It had Summertime Blues, a studio version, which they did live on, again, it was, I think, Live at Leeds. Marianne with the Shaky Hand was on this one. The Young Man Blues, a different version of that was on here. Loving for Keeping, I mentioned I love that song with Pete Townsend doing lead vocals on that one. So, Ellen Water and Naked Eye. So a good compilation, but I never fully embraced that one. But looking back on it, the track list is better than I remember. I should, if I'm ever back in Canada again, and I raid my parents' basement, I still have hundreds and hundreds of old CDs there. Maybe I'll have to bring that one back with me. So Odds and Sods. I can't say too much about that one. So that's all I'll say. And I'm going to move on to the next in their discography. The Who is weird. They've been around since 1965 or 66. I think they only put out 12 or 13 studio albums because they went from 82 to 2006 with no albums, and then from 2006 to last year with no albums. So they had two huge gaps of no music. So for a band that's been around that long, they don't have too many studio albums, but this was the next one in line after Quadrophenia. This was the Who by Numbers. This came out in '75. I love this album. I don't think this might be my second favorite Who album after. I don't want to paint myself into a corner and say and rank them too much. Who's next is number one. That's indisputable. But I love this album. I don't think this is regarded as a classic Who album like Tommy or Quadrophenia or even the Who sell out, but I love it. Slip Kid, However Much I Booze, Pete Townsend, again, lead vocals on that one. Squeezebox, a little bit of an immature, you know, compare the lyrics with Squeezebox with Imagine a Man. They're very, very different lyrics. And speaking of that, Imagine a Man, that's another one of my top Who songs. Very kind of a serious song. Imagine events imagine events that occur every day, like a shooting or raping or a simple act of deceit. That's a fantastic song. Imagine that. Success Story. I like that one. That one always brings to mind The Kid's All Right, the movie. That's when John Entwistle is shooting the gold records with his machine gun. They Are All in Love is a great song. Now I'm gonna put this down. That means I'm getting serious. If I put this down, Blue, Red, and Gray. I'm gonna go on record here and say that is my favorite Who song, which is maybe a strange choice. It's just ukulele, and I think there's French horn in that song, and it's Pete Townsend. What a beautiful, just a fantastic song, musically and lyrically. It I feel like I have a. This sounds very dramatic, or maybe I'm making too much of it. I feel like I have a personal connection with Blue, Red, and Gray. I guess it's lyrically about just making the best of everything and trying to see things in a positive light. And you know, he says, some people seem so obsessed with the morning, get up early just to watch the sunrise. Others like it more when there's fire in the sky, worship the sun when it's high. So comparing the people that like, you know, day people and night people, worship the sun when it's high. Some people what? Again, it's so hard to think of the lyrics. Worship the sun when it's high. Some people like them when there's fire in the sky. Worship the sun when it's high. I can't remember, but what else is in it? I know a man who works the night shift. He's lucky to have some job and some pay, but I like every minute of the day. So to me, it's just about just enjoying life. It doesn't matter whether it's hot or cold or day and night. Just, you know, make another one of the great lines is some friends of mine are crazy. No, I've even shown the south of France. Some people on the hill, they say I'm lazy, but when they sleep, I sing and dance. So I kind of relate to that song. I just think I try to, as I get older especially, try to find the good in everything. I do like freezing cold weather, and I like really hot weather, and maybe I'm simplifying it, but Blue, Red, and Gray, there you go, my favorite Who song. And I never listened to that song once. Whenever and I don't know if I've ever gone more than a month without listening to that song in the last 20 years, and I never listened to it once. Whenever I listen to it, I have to listen to it twice. It's it's too beautiful, and it's short too, so it's always easy to listen to. Nice musically, lyrically, the whole vibe of it. Pete Townsend's voice, Blue, Red, and Gray, love it. So I'll get back to the Who by numbers. How many friends have I really got? And In a Hand or a Face. I just have the basic version of this one, no bonus tracks, and that's John Entwistle's drawing, the Who by numbers, back when you did these paint by numbers or drawing by numbers. So I love this album. Maybe one of my top Who albums for sure out of their whole catalog. This is second, maybe third, fourth, somewhere like that. But I love this album. Blue, Red, and Gray stands out. Let me go over here. All right, now I think I'm missing some. Oh, I know what I was going to talk about. Where is it? Here it is. I'm going to do something a little bit different that I haven't done with these other bands that I've done. I'm going to talk about DVDs. This was, can I do this yet? No, sorry. I'm going to come back to this. Kid's All Right. Edit. No edit. I'm going to talk next about, oh, I don't have this one. Who Are You? That album is not very good. I guess the reason I don't have it was I didn't bring it with me when I moved. That's for sure. If Who's Next is my favorite Who album, Who Are You is my least favorite for sure. And I'm not sure why. I do love the title track. Let me check. I'm not even that familiar with Who Are You. The title track is great. Other than that, I don't know if it was, see now my instinct would be to say, well, it had synthesizer in it. And but then I think, wow, they had, well, keyboards. They had keyboards on other albums. I don't know, maybe for me, just the songs were not very good. I listened to this album recently, and there's really nothing much I can say about this album. I do love, as I said, the title track is great. What else? Let me see. New song. New song. Maybe I can talk about that when I talk about their most recent album. I'll try to remember to go back to that. Sister Disco, The Music Must Change. Trick of the Light. Yeah, really nothing here stands out to me except the title track. Just, I don't know if their songs weren't good, which of course is subjective, but the keyboards, didn't like this album at all. Never got into it. And if you put it on, I wouldn't recognize anything. I would know it's The Who, but I couldn't say. I know the song titles, Guitar and Pen, and was Trick of the Light on this? Yeah, Trick of the Light, but never got into any of those. So Who Are You? I guess that's the reason I don't have it, was because it was never, not only was it not a favorite, I just never even liked it. I guess I just bought it to complete the discography. Now, I'll go back to Kids Are Alright. Now, I did, this is another one I have on CD, but I didn't bring with me. I'm not, again, I wish I could go back and get Who Are You, even though I don't like it, and Odds and Sods and Kids Are Alright. So I'm going to talk about the Kids Are Alright as a film, a music documentary. This was cool because this was back when, this came out in 1979. This came out when, you know, it's pretty standard fare now for bands to put out a concert movie or something like that. This, I guess, was pretty unique. This came out when this came out. I didn't know the song Kids Are Alright, and I knew the movie, and I wondered why they called it Kids Are Alright. I didn't know that they took it from the song title. This is a compilation of, this is basically like the history of The Who. Many of their, this is similar before Kiss did their Kissology DVDs, a compilation of all TV appearances, interviews, some new stuff that they filmed specifically for this in 70. I guess they filmed it in 78. The movie came out in 79. This is fantastic. I bought this special edition when this came out in maybe 2002, something like that. This is excellent. This has all kinds of interviews, their appearance on I guess some of their first TV appearances on Smothers Brothers, which was not their first one. It's the first one in this movie. I love Kids Are Alright, and excellent. This was the, as I said, the deluxe edition, double DVD. Cool packaging, if that's your thing. And as I mentioned earlier, it had John Entwistle shooting the records, the gold records or the platinum records. I still have. I used to throw these out. These little, I don't know what these called. Jason Satterfield would have a heart attack if he heard that I used to throw these things out. Order forms. I don't know. But this is an excellent concert film, if I can sound snotty. Cool booklet. Packaging was excellent. It had details of every track. Cool booklet. I love it. And I think for me, the best thing about this DVD was the newer performances. They recorded maybe, I don't know how many songs they did, 5 or 6, but I think they only put 3 on this album that they did at some studio in England. One of which was, I think there were 3, they were, Won't Get Fooled Again. They did live in I don't know if it was like a studio, like a recording studio, where this picture came from. Kids Are Alright, sorry, not Kids Are Alright, Won't Get Fooled Again, I think Baba O'Reilly for sure, and maybe one other one. And they also did a studio version. Those were live studio versions, and they did a studio version, a recording studio version of Who Are You, which was also very good. So I love Kids Are Alright. It's talking about the movie, and I guess the soundtrack is the same. I love it. It's I guess considered a classic for its type. Before anybody was doing these, The Who did it first, I think. Even better than Song Remains the Same. If I'm not getting things out of order, or if I'm not forgetting anything, next one I'm going to talk about is Face Dances. This came out in 1981. I really like this album. As I mentioned earlier, we have a tendency to talk about whatever album you're talking about at the time, or whatever album is new at the time. You compare it to the one that came before it. So comparing this to Who Are You? Who Are You? I was going to say it sucks. I don't like saying that, but I didn't like it. I thought Face Dances was excellent. This album has maybe my second favorite Who song ever, which is You Better You Bet, which is the first song on here. And my friend Francisco Paco, I know he loves it. I think that's his favorite Who song too. You Better You Bet is a killer song. I Call You on the Telephone, My Voice Too Rough with Cigarettes. I love that song. What else is on here? Don't Let Go of the Coat, pretty good. Cash Cash. It's a song about bears. It's an excellent song, but man, they're singing about bears. The first line of that song is what is it? Have you ever slept in a bear pit, or have you ever been in a bear pit? Cash. Excellent song, but I don't know if I've listened to a lot of music. I think this is the only song, Cash Cash, that's about bears. What else is on here? These are too small to read. I'll have to. Can I see better? Okay. You better. Don't Let Go of the Coat. Cash Cash. Oh, The Quiet One. That's a great John Entwistle song. That's a good rock and Who song. I knew that one. Now going back. Let me take a break from this for a second. I mentioned I was going to talk about a lot of different things. This was the first money that I spent on the Who. I didn't have a Who album until many, many years later, but I did have the single of You Better You Bet. It was a 7-inch single, and it was the four of them. Keith Moon had died at this point. He had died the year before. Or I guess, now this was 81. I think he died in 78 or 79. And so they had a new drummer, Kenny Jones. I didn't care about that at the time. I don't even know if I probably knew. And so I bought You Better You Bet, and The Quiet One was the B-side of You Better You Bet. So that's how I knew that one. That's a good John Entwistle rock song, The Quiet One. Good one. Let me go back and see what else. Did You Steal My Money? That's a good one. How Can You Do It Alone? Not sure what that one's about. I think you'd have to read the lyrics and really read between the lines to know what How Can You Do It Alone is about. That was a good, that's a good one too. That was John, it was John Entwistle. Another Tricky Day became a little bit of a Who, not a classic, but I think they played that live for quite some time after. So I mean, this is not a favorite album, but for later era Who, I like it a lot. I would even say I maybe like this better than the Who Sell Out. For sure better than Who Are You? Maybe even better than Quick One? I'm not sure. But pretty good. This was a new era for the Who. Music was changing. The band was changing. Keith Moon was gone. So Face Dances, I like it. Not a favorite, but I do like it. Next. I'll put this album up with or down with Who Are You? I don't like this album at all. This is called It's Hard. This came out in 1982. Just didn't like this one. Now this is another one I did buy the single. They had the first single was Athena, and I bought that, the 7-inch single. But other than that, this Eminence Front, I guess I came to like Eminence Front a little bit later because they played it live, and so I knew some live versions of it. But this is similar to Who Are You? There's really nothing on this album that I know other than Athena. I like Athena. Athena, it's a very happy song. It's Hard, I guess the title track was pretty good. But really nothing on here stands out to me. And I'm gonna take a break to talk about that. To talk about something else related to It's Hard. The Who was my first concert ever. But not quite. In 1982, the Who was also, I guess, the first band that I remember anyway to do, I don't think they called it a farewell tour at the time, or maybe they, at some point in the middle of the tour, they said, you know what, we're not doing it anymore. Now, of course, that was 38 years ago. So you can blame or thank the Who for everybody else who did something similar. But yeah, when they toured in 1982, they ended the tour in Toronto at Maple Leaf Gardens. It was towards the end of the year, maybe November or December, and the last concert was broadcast live on TV in Toronto. I think it must have been on City TV. And I went to my friend. I had a friend. This guy was called Dwayne Frank. I mentioned him when I talked about Black Sabbath, when I did this Black Sabbath video, the Black Sabbath discography. So Dwayne Frank was a friend of mine at the time. This was in '82. He lived just down the street from me, and I went to his house. I think I remember being on a Friday night, maybe a Saturday night. And so I think it was also simulcast on the radio, which if it was probably Chum FM or Q107, maybe Chum FM. And so we watched, the whole concert was live on simulcast on TV and the radio. So we watched it and listened to it. And so that was not my first concert because I didn't go to it in person. That was kind of like now what bands are doing with this live streaming, obviously for different reasons. Back then, bands weren't doing stuff like this. This was really cool that the Who did it. So we watched the Who concert at the end of 1982, and I loved it. And they did. That was when I first heard Boris the Spider, and they had Boris. They had this little tiny spider like this coming down, I guess on a string or a thread or something like that. And I was 12 years old. I thought that was pretty cool. So in a small way, the Who, they were my first shirt, and they were kind of, not officially, but almost my first concert. So getting back to the album, It's Hard. I don't really have anything to get back to because I have nothing else to say. It's not very good. I'd say the Who had two albums that stink. It's Hard and Who Are You? But I have them anyway. Now, that was the end of the Who, right? In 1982? Of course it wasn't. They toured again some years later, and then again a couple years later, and then they were fairly active. I guess they've been more or less active, at least as a touring band, from the late 90s or 2000, around there. Forget about Live at Leeds. This is the best live album by The Who. I love this album. This is Live at the Royal Albert Hall. This was from 2002, 2003. It came out in 2003, so probably the concert. It was from 2000. Recorded live at the Royal Albert Hall, November 27th, 2000. So it's 2000. I love this. Let me take a look at this. This had some guests. It had a great set list. I can't explain anyhow, anywhere. Pinball Wizard, Relay, My Wife, Kids Alright, Marianne with the Shaky Hand, Bargain, Magic Bus, Who Are You, Bob O'Reilly, and then the disc 2, Drowned, Hard to Hang On To, So Sad About Us, with Paul Weller. That's a great version. I would even say maybe this live version is better than the original version, which, as I mentioned, is one of my favorites. I'm One with Eddie Vedder. One of my top Who songs, top 5 for sure, maybe top 3. Getting in Tune, another one of my favorite. That was also with Eddie Vedder. Behind Blue Eyes with Bryan Adams. Bryan Adams did vocals on that song. You Better You Bet, as I mentioned, one of my favorite Who songs. The Real Me, I love that song. 5:15, Won't Get Fooled Again with Noel Gallagher. Substitute. Let's See Action. Eddie Vedder also did that with My Generation. And then See Me, Feel Me, and Listening to You with Eddie Vedder and Bryan Adams. So the second half of this album, or this concert especially, had a lot of guests, and I love it. This is fantastic. This was when the Who was. I'm sure some of you geezas, if anybody is older than me and you're watching this, you would strongly disagree. But for me, this was the Who at their live peak. I think that's the same with a lot of these older bands. They, back then they had more energy and. The vibe maybe of the concert was better, but I think a lot of these bands now they're better musicians. They maybe just play better concerts. Now there is also with this, let me go out of frame here, a companion DVD, which is also a double DVD. This was, I think this was, I don't know why they do this. I think there were some differences. I think the DVD had some things that the CD didn't, or maybe the CD had some things that the DVD didn't. It's basically the whole concert. But when this came out in 2001, I watched this a lot. I love this concert. This is one of my favorite concert DVDs ever. I like it better than Isle of Wight for sure, and I like as a CD. I like, as I mentioned, I like Live at the Royal Albert Hall CD better than Live at Leeds. So there you go. I love this album. As far as live albums go, it's as good as it gets. And if I can put it away, I'll move on to the next one. And let me see, am I getting lost? Am I forgetting anything? I'm off camera. Oh no, keeping in the same vein. Something different. Like I said, I'm going to talk about DVDs here. This one had the original title of Live in Boston. The Who, Live in Boston. Very lazy. Just live in, and then the name of the city. Live at Leeds, Live in Boston. But again, great. This was 2004, I think. Was now I should say John Entwistle. I think that was his last. The Live at the Royal Albert. Why can't I say that? Albert Hall. I think that was John Entwistle's. It was his last, I guess, video performance. It wasn't his last show. But so by this point, John Entwistle had died, and Pino Palladino was on bass, which it's fine for me. But yeah, I mean, it clearly became the Pete and Roger show at this point. I love this one too. This is, for me, this was when the Who, I can't say they were at their peak, but I really liked the Who as a band much better at this point than in the 60s and 70s. Great track list, set list, I guess, that they played. Similar to Live at the Royal Albert Hall. I can't explain, Substitute. I'm not going to say all of them, but I love this one. It's excellent. And also, I guess, the thing I like better about concert movies or DVDs, whatever you want to call them, in more recent years was that the technology was better. They had, more cameras, better camera angles, and just better. So Live in Boston DVD, I love it. It's excellent. What can I do next? I still have a few things to go here. All right, we'll do this one. Got to go forward to 2006. This was called Endless Wire. This came out 24 years after their last studio album. It's Hard, which wasn't very good, came out in 82. This came out in 2006. The Who had been touring, as I've mentioned, on and off since then, but this is their first album. I love this album. Man, I really can't tell you how much I love this album. Maybe, could be my second favorite Who album, after Who's Next. I love it. And I bought the deluxe version of this one in 2006. This was the first album I bought after I moved to Mexico, so I always have that association with it. The bonus DVD on this was Live in Lyon. It was a live album from France, or I guess not a live album, but like five tracks, a bonus DVD of 5 live tracks. But again, the thing that I didn't really like about this album, they went back to the rock opera, similar with Tommy and Quadrophenia. Now, the first 9 albums on this album were Kevin Montavon. Did you catch that? Album, song. The first 9 songs on this album were just songs. And then they had what Pete Townsend called the mini opera. It was Wire and Glass. So this had some little, very short, 1.5, 2-minute songs or musical interludes. But it starts with Fragments. The first song is Fragments, which is a clear, very, very obvious nod to Baba O'Reilly. Man in a Purple Dress. I'm going to tell you, there are a lot of songs on this album that I love. Man in a Purple Dress, that's as good as the Who gets. Except for the next song, which is Mike Post's theme. We're Not Strong Enough. Great Roger Daltrey vocal on that. The guy could still sing, and I guess still can in 2006, this was. We summon every childhood ghost we've seen, then suddenly we hear that Mike Post theme. Everything is all right. Ba-da-ba. In the Ether, Pete Townsend sings that one. A little bit of a strange vocal on that one. Black Widow's Eyes, 2,000 Years. Nice mandolin in that song. 2,000 years, 2,000. Have I waited? God Speaks of Marty Robbins. It's Not Enough. You Stand By Me. Those first 9 songs are fantastic. And then the Wire and Glass mini opera. Just looking at the lengths of the song, 121, 128, 207, 204, 151, 223, 118, 113. And then the last two, 414 and 324, those were, so just kind of like the mini opera. I, to be honest, don't really know too much. I think it was a boy who heard music or something like that. And then what was great was there were 2 extended versions of We Got a Hit and Endless Wire. We Got a Hit is a great song. We got our folks together. We broke down barriers. I love We Got a Hit. Endless Wire is also a fantastic song. They Made My Dream Come True. There's a song here called Trildi's Piano. Just a very short piece that's, it's just Pete Townsend on piano that reminds me of, well, I shouldn't say it reminds me of. Later, there was a song in 2016. There's if anybody knows the band called the Tragically Hip, by far the most important Canadian band ever and biggest Canadian band ever. It's not Rush, it's Tragically Hip. And the guy from, the singer from Tragically Hip, this guy called Gord Downie, he put out a solo album. I guess it came out just shortly before he died, or maybe shortly after he died. It was called Secret Path, and the title track for that album, Secret Path, reminded me of Trildi's Piano. Kind of it's piano and just very melancholy musically and vocally, and even the melody of Secret Path reminded me of Trildi's Piano. So, but I love this album for considering that, and I think maybe if you're a music fan and you like old bands, if you like Metallica and Black Sabbath and The Who and the Rolling Stones and bands that have been around for a long time, you probably have a lot of people have the attitude of, this sucks. Whatever they're doing now, it sucks. It's not as good as Master of Puppets. It's not as good as Paranoid. It's not as good as Who's Next, which is very foolish, I think, to think like that. I think if you recalibrate your expectations, you'll find a lot of these bands still play really, really good music. So you maybe can't expect The Who to do Who's Next, although I do love this album, not as much as Who's Next. Metallica, Death Magnetic, as I mentioned, I love that. Was one of my favorite albums of the 2000s. So considering The Who hadn't done an album for 82 to 2006, 24 years, it was as good as you could possibly imagine, which maybe sounds like a backhanded compliment. I loved Endless Wire, and I still love it. I listened to it last week for the full album, front to back. I love it. I really enjoyed listening to it, and there are several songs on it that I've listened to hundreds of times over the years, especially, I guess, Man in Purple Dress, Mike Post's theme. We Got a Hit, Endless Wire. Those are as good as anything The Who has ever done in my book. And I'm moving on now from 2006. This came out in 2014, 15, 2014. Time out. Let me put this down and go back. My Who concert history. I always talk about these bands and the first time I saw them live. As I mentioned, I kind of saw The Who live in 1982. I don't really count it as my first concert. The Who were playing in Mexico City in March 2007. And of course, I bought tickets. I had moved here in 2006. So when I heard The Who were playing in Mexico City, first time they've ever played in Mexico. In all these decades they've been around, somehow The Who missed playing in Mexico. So as soon as they announced it, of course, I got tickets, and they were going to play at a place called Foro Sol, which is a 55,000 seat stadium. Metallica, I've seen Metallica there many times. I've seen Iron Maiden there many times. I saw Rolling Stones there. I saw Black Sabbath there a couple times. I saw Foo Fighters there. I saw Billy Joel there earlier this year. Huge stadium. This is for the heavyweights. So they were supposed to play there in March 2007. Got canceled. Roger Daltrey, I think maybe 2 weeks before the show came, he had throat problems, which he's had over the years, on and off. And I understand. I mean, at this point, the guy was 60, I don't know how old, 65 maybe at that point. And they had to cancel the last maybe 5 shows of that tour or something. So that was my one chance to see The Who, and crushed. I wasn't crushed. It sucked. I was disappointed, but I wasn't gutted. A lot of people like to say they were gutted. My ice cream cone fell on the floor. I'm gutted. I wasn't gutted, but I was very disappointed. They said, as most bands do at the time, they always try to put a positive spin on and say, we promise we'll be back soon. Now, in my mind, soon is maybe in the next year, maybe 2 years. It wasn't. I'll talk about that later. So, some years later, 2014, we had a very cleverly named album. This was called The Who Hits 50. Clever, but also, as I said, they put the name of the band, The Who, in all their albums. So it was The Who, and it was their hits. It was their greatest hits compilation. And 50 years old, and also 50 songs, I guess. Is it 50? 24 and 18. Almost 50 songs. What's that? 42 songs. This is the definitive. I forgot something. I'll finish this, then I'll go back. Oh, I missed something very important. Very important. How could I forget? Because I don't have it. That's why. This has every Who song you've ever heard, and every Who song that you love is on this one. A double CD. The CD is not there. Neither is there. You know what? I think these are in the car. I think I put these in the car years ago. This had, I'm not going to read 42 songs, but every song on this album was basically all the songs that I mentioned that are all my favorites there on this one. Plus, Be Lucky. They recorded a new song for this album called Be Lucky, which to me fit right in with all the songs that I just mentioned in Endless Wire. Be Lucky was a continuation of Endless Wire. This was 2014. I guess at this point, Pete and Roger were 40, and they were still putting out great music. Be Lucky is an excellent Who song. And they name check AC/DC, and they talk about Highway to Hell. You got to do a cover of Highway to Hell. AC/DC is going to be fine. They also mention Daft Punk. So not that any of those matter, but this is an excellent. I've mentioned before, there's not really too much of a point in having a greatest hits or a compilation album in the last 20 years, because you can download your own personal favorites and make a playlist or whatever. But it is nice to have something tangible with this. So this is excellent. I'm a little bit worried now. I don't know where those CDs are. So as I say, I think The Who had many compilations. Some were straight up hits, like this one, like greatest hits compilations. Some, like Meaty Beaty Big and Bouncy, were a collection of singles that were not maybe released on albums. Odds and Sods was outtakes and B-sides and things like that. But this is the one you want. If you want all the hits, get this one. Now, what I forgot to mention, and the reason I forgot to mention is because I don't have the physical CD with me. I didn't buy it. In 2000, I don't know when it was, 2003, maybe 2004, they released a previous greatest hits album called Then and Now! Exclamation point. So it was Then and Now! Exclamation point. I'm losing my voice. I don't know if you can hear it, but nobody's listening, but I feel I'm losing my voice. And so they did Then and Now. That was just a single disc. I didn't buy it because I had all the songs on it. I had them, and so there's no need to buy a compilation album. Although I did get The Who Hits 50 some years later. But there were 2 new songs on Then and Now, and they were called A Real Good Looking Boy and Old Red Wine. That was the first new Who music since 1982. Maybe they had released some previously unreleased songs, but it was their first new music that they had recorded. Those 2 songs, both of them, Real Good Looking Boy and Old Red Wine, especially Real Good Looking Boy, I would put those could be in my top 5 Who songs of all the Who songs. I love this later era of the Who, from let's say from Then and Now, or Now and Then and Now. From 2004, they did the 2 songs, Old Red Wine, Real Good Looking Boy, Endless Wire, the album, Be Lucky, and then the next one I'm going to talk about, to me, that's as good as the Who, anything the Who has done. So A Real Good Looking Boy, I listen to that constant, and All the Red Wine too, especially A Real Good Looking Boy. I'm gonna go back and revert and make my list. Blue, Red, and Gray is number 1. I would say Real Good Looking Boy might be my number 2 favorite Who song ever. Beautiful, beautiful, perfect song. It's got a little snippet of at the beginning and then in the middle of Elvis. Wise Men Say, Can't Help Falling in Love. It starts with Wise Men Say, ding, 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 just the piano, no vocal. And then in the middle, there's the vocal of Wise Men Say, Only Fools Rush In, but I can't say. A Real Good Looking Boy, maybe I would even put that above Blue, Red, and Gray. I don't want to contradict myself, but it's my list. I can do whatever I want. I feel like I could talk about, I could dissect A Real Good Looking Boy in a 10-minute video. If I could listen to a song and like these people that do the much more professional and better videos than mine, where they actually put thought into it and edit things in, I feel like I could do that about Real Good Looking Boy. Fantastic song. And Old Red Wine was, of course, about John Entwistle. It was, I guess, Pete Townshend's little tribute to John Entwistle. Both of those songs are fantastic. But I didn't buy that album, but I listened to those songs constantly. And A Real Good Looking Boy did appear on the Who Hits 50, but it was a short version. This was, the version here was 3:53. I think the original version was closer to 6 minutes, but they didn't put Old Red Wine on here, which maybe they should have. Oh well. But, A Real Good Looking Boy and Old Red Wine are fantastic Who songs. Now, I have one more album to go, but before I do that, this is, I think, the first time I've done this. I'm going to show, because I have my bookshelf right below my camera setup. I'm breaking out all the big guns. I read this, I bought this Who album. This was they did a whole, imagine how much of an impact an album has if somebody wrote a whole book about an album. This was, The Making of Tommy. This was an excellent album. Excellent book. I think it helped me to understand it a little bit better and appreciate it more. Excellent book. Some great pictures, a lot of really good information, stories behind how it all came to be. So that was Tommy the book, and I also had, this is a big one. This was a biography. I didn't read Pete Townsend. He wrote his autobiography called Who I Am, again, putting Who in the title. This was a biography. As I put dates on everything, I bought this in January 2006, which I guess was around the time it came out. I think it came out around then. You could write another book it came out in 2005. This was 15 years ago. You could write a second book. So this was a massive book. This took me a long time to read. This was, how many pages is this? 640 pages, 641 pages. I'm not going to talk about it. I can't do a book review. I read this 15 years ago. I can't remember too much about it, but I did enjoy reading it. Pete Townsend has had a very interesting life. And if anybody's going to talk about the problems he's had with child pornography, don't waste your time. And I'm not sticking up for him, but that's something different. All right, now the last thing. Who? This album was called Who. This is their most recent album. I would imagine, I hope not, but you have to think it's going to be their last album. This just came out at the end of last year. This album isn't even a year old yet. This came out, I think it was around the end of last year, maybe around Christmas. And kind of a nod, obviously, for a couple of things here. Detour, the Who was called the Detours, before they're called the Who, and the High Numbers. And they've got the Pete Townsend guitar ad. This guitar has Seconds to Live. A little face dances thing here. What else? They got the mod symbol there. Obviously a little tribute. Oh, and also Quadrophenia. So some little things here. this album is really, really good. This, again, I'll say, I just mentioned earlier, real good, starting with A Real Good Looking Boy, Old Red Wine, Endless Wire, Be Lucky, and now this one. I think The Who in this era is as good or better than they were back in the 60s or 70s. I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't think that. Better than their 80s, better than this album is for sure better than Who Are You and It's Hard. I really like this album a lot. I mentioned, what was that, an hour ago? New song from the first song from Who Are You? To me, the first song here, All This Music Must Fade, kind of reminds me of that lyrically. It's kind of Pete Townsend, I think, talking about music. You know, it's just music and everybody steals from everybody. Lyrically, I think new song from Who Are You and All This Music Must Fade. All This Music Must Fade. It's an excellent song, too. Forget about the lyrics. It's a good rock song. Ball and Chain was... Pete Townsend did a song some years ago called Guantanamo, and then they re-recorded it with Roger Daltrey singing, and they titled it, or retitled it, Ball and Chain. Detour was also a good song. Beats on One String. I don't know that, to be honest, I don't know this too much. I think I've only listened to it, probably the whole album, maybe only 3 times, maybe 4 times from front to back. I've listened to a few songs here and there randomly, but I don't know this album too much, so I can't say, I don't know, I'm not too familiar. But All This Music Must Fade, Ball and Chain, Detour. The last song, She Rocked My World, that's a cool song. That has a really cool, not exactly a ballad, it has just a cool, almost flamenco vibe to it. I don't know, something like that. And there were bonus songs. I don't have the deluxe version. I don't know why they call them deluxe versions. When they call them bonus tracks. There were 3 bonus tracks that they, I guess, recorded for this album. I can't even remember what they were called. No, I can't. I'm not even gonna bother to look. But they were one of them. I think it was the second song. Sounds like it was recorded in 1968. Sounds like classic Who. Not just the style of it, but the sound of it. I don't know what they did. I don't know if they. Maybe I would have to check Wikipedia or check the liner notes. I don't know if that was. I don't think it was an old song. I think it's a new song, but it just sounds incredible that they could make themselves sound like they did 50 years ago. So Who, this was presumably, but not hopefully, their last album. I hope there's going to be another Who album. Maybe I've mentioned this before during this period, this quarantine period. Maybe a lot of bands some of them maybe are being lazy or just relaxing. Some of them are maybe being more, taking advantage of their time to write new music. I don't know what is happening with The Who or Pete Townsend, but I hope there's more Who music. And but if not, this was a great album to finish with. Now a couple of other things I can show. That's it for their music. Just a couple of things here. A few DVDs I can show. This was Amazing Journey. This was just a story of The Who. I have no idea what this is. I can't remember. I remember that I bought it, but I don't remember anything that's on it. I'll have to check this out. It's in Spanish, so I bought it in Mexico for sure. It's come out in somewhat recent years. It came out in... I don't see the year, but I have no idea what's on this. Haven't got a clue. This one was good. This was Tommy and Quadrophenia Live. This came out in the early 2000s maybe. And this was, as you would imagine, it's Tommy and Quadrophenia Live from 1989. I can't remember. I don't think were they the same concert? I can't remember. I haven't watched this for a long time. And then, as you can see, it's a double DVD. They put I guess the bonus DVD was live hit. So it was from 1989 when Pete Townsend had that bad new wave haircut. Substitute, I Can See for Miles, Bob O'Reilly, all the hits as you'd expect. Oh, and then I had the Quadrophenia Encore from the 96-97 tour. As I mentioned, they toured kind of sporadically through the 90s, which again was greatest hits. Won't Get Fooled Again, Substitute, I Can't Explain, Kids All Right, Behind Blue Eyes, and Who Are You? So I haven't watched this also for a long time. And this had some guests, Billy Idol Elton John, Phil Collins, Steve Winwood. I'll have to go back. I always talk about this, but doing these things kind of inspires me to go back and revisit some of these bands that I maybe haven't listened to for a while, or maybe that I should listen to more. So that's it for The Who. That was a long one. I don't know how long this is. It feels really long. It always gives me a little bit of a bad back when you stand in one place for as long as I'm doing. But that's it for The Who. I think this is, I've done, I don't know how many of these episodes now, maybe 15 or more, 18, 17, I don't know. Next one I think I'm gonna do, I keep saying this at the end, I don't know who I'm talking to. I'm kind of going through a classic rock kick. I did Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, and now The Who. I might do one more. I'm not sure if I can get my way through it or not. And I'm still gonna do at least 4 more after that, for sure. So that's it. So for me and my throat, I'm just about at the end of my, I gotta tap out soon. That's it. Thanks for watching, whatever you do. Most people, I saw the Beatles one that I did last time with Lily was 1 hour and 39 minutes, and the average view duration was like 4 minutes and 50 seconds, something like that. So I know nobody's watching this. I'm talking to myself, but if you are watching this, if you skip to the end to watch it, thanks. And comment. People say, I see other people say, leave a comment because it really helps. I don't know if they make money from comments. I don't know how the YouTube system works, but talk about your favorite Who album. Tell me what you like. I can't take requests because I can only talk about bands that I like, not bands that you like. But thanks for watching, scrolling, whatever you do, and see ya.